Inflation running hot. Everything you buy is going to cost you so much more based on what's happening out here in Asia and the disruptions from the Middle East. I'm here in Asia, and it's exactly like the C-19 out here, not affecting things back home. But as soon as it hit, whoa, blindsided. Well, this is going to blindside you with your pocketbook. It's coming home to roost. Inflation? What inflation? A package of ground beef costs the same as it did last month. And isn't that the talking point? Don't worry about this. It's going to be limited. We're America. We have a lot of energy. We have refineries. Oh, wait, our diesel price is up 41%. It's a global market. So unless we start segmenting off continents and have regional pricing, you're going to get dragged along like everybody else is in this whole conundrum of rising everything, rising gas prices, rising diesel, rising natural gas. Oh, wait, that's cut off. So is the helium for all types of production for electronics and semiconductor chips. It just goes on and on and on. Oh, fish. Let's talk about fish off the plate. And it's starting in 5 nations so far, but it is going to go around the world like it did in C-19. Get ready for fish shortages. Surge in diesel prices triggered by the war. Thailand's fishing fleet, at least 50% of them are staying in every single day. So, for example, there, the diesel prices were 38.9 baht, which is a little over a dollar, about $1.20. Let's round it off there. That was up from 29.94 in a single day after the government stopped the subsidies. Why? Well, it became too expensive for the government to run the subsidies to keep the citizens fed and the protein sources coming in. So everybody's on their own. So you get a look at what happens when governments won't subsidize or stop subsidies because of, well, financial pain. Right on to you. Dutch fishing fleet idle. Fuel bills were 12,000 euros, let's say $13,000, $14,000, and now it's up around 30,000 euros. So that has doubled, effectively putting the Dutch fishing fleet on hold. Their entire bills now are double. So I got a little more off William Middlecook's feed here. Half the Dutch fishing fleet and then half the Thai fishing fleet in. You know, similarity? Only the ones that are really of large size that can absorb that have their own fuel stocks, can continue to operate. So let's even make it at the high end. $15,000 for a weekly fuel bill before the war. Now they're at 34,000, over double. They're going to operate at a loss until what happens? Until the fish prices come up, and then they can make a profit again. Which that means you pay way more. So just using Grok, asking it to jump through the different headlines and give me the media source for stories about fishing fleets being, well, affected by this and limiting their catch. Thailand, United States, U.S. shrimp. So you're thinking about shrimping, that sort of thing. Netherlands, Europe, Dutch, UK, Bangladesh, Philippines, Australia, India. So the playbook is going to remain the same. This is a perfect example of once you understand what's happening in another place, copy paste is going to go on. First thing, they're going to remove fuel subsidies for fishermen. Okay, that'll drive up the cost 25%, maybe a little more. At that point, they're going to be running about half the fleet because only the very largest at that point can get those to invest in. Hey, we'll give you a certain percentage return. Just give us the money for the fuel. We'll kick you back something later on. Like that's the kind of operations that are large enough that can guarantee some sort of issuance or some sort of collateral that they can get that money. Smaller cannot. So they're going to be stuck in port. Advantage to the bigs again. The fish is going to go up in price astronomically to go well past what the diesel price increases are so they can operate at a profit once again. There's definitely a ratio on this one. So if diesel fuel goes up 25%, half the fleet stays in port. So that means your fish price needs to at least go up 50%, possibly double. And I would imagine as these diesel prices keep increasing, that's going to have to be doubling and then tripling to make it economical for fishing fleets to go out and troll and do what they do for their catch. New numbers out of Washington show inflation is on the rise again. Another threat to you, your savings account, and your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even last year?
What does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investments specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and makes it simple. No pressure, just education and experience. And the limited time offer March bonus, get a 1/10th ounce gold American Eagle coin for new qualified accounts. Visit 2030gold.com and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. That's 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below.
A lot of fish is going to be taken off the plate. It's just simply not going to be there in the supply chains because a lot of the smallers, especially for local markets first. Now, those wholesalers like Costco and Walmart that are getting fish from around the planet, fish farms, etc. But anything that's actually wild caught in the oceans, going to be a conundrum. So again, check the box. End of the gold decades, they wanted everything farmed fish. No more fleets using the ocean, and this goes directly into that. I'm seeing a lot of parallels in the end of the decade goals with actually what's occurring on the ground. Can't fly, don't fly, more expensive, can't get out of there. Fishing fleets can't harvest the oceans, got to have farmed fish, which are going to be controlled. It all seems to fit right now. Somebody taking advantage of the situation? I would absolutely say yes, but this is going to be the playbook for you. Fish up for sure. Good news on the side, Ethiopia with the increased above ground precipitation, meaning more rainfall on a 4,000-year pattern. 29 million tons makes it Africa's top producer. Bravo to them to take advantage. And Ethiopian Renaissance Dam and a lot of others cranking constant electricity. Ethiopia is going to be the winner. Their GDP is going to skyrocket past anything. Constant electricity and now constant agricultural production. Yeah, that's a recipe for win on that. Breaking, Egypt has ordered energy saving measures. This is another going to be a copy paste across the planet here, and it is in advance. Shops and restaurants have to close by 9 p.m. on weekdays, 10 p.m. on weekends, and Sunday you got to work from home. So these numbers that you see, 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., I am sure they're going to come down just like they did during C-19. And speaking of Egypt, they're like, we're not playing the Middle East game. We're going to get Libyan oil. Oh, wait, didn't they have a problem with the U.S. in there with Libyan oil? I think they did. But the 1.2 million barrels from Libya is now going to come out. So you can see how this whole thing is becoming like a secondary oil front. So Russia's off 40% exports. Oh, by the way, they stopped exporting gasoline yesterday. No more gasoline exports. China, no more gasoline, diesel, jet fuel exports. Major suppliers on the planet not exporting anymore. All the downstream stuff, which I'll come in tomorrow's video talking about through Asia and how it's going to affect everything. I mean, everything that you buy in your pocketbook. And then we see this, well, if there's an alternative source that's not under Western control, quote unquote, that's going to be coming into, well, other Arab nations up there. So Egypt says, we're not going to play the game. We're going to go get our oil from our neighbor over there. So anticipate something in Northern Africa to begin as well, especially if the payment's in something other than US dollars. This whole thing's about BRICS control anyway. Have you noticed that? They're giving one excuse, but really it's all about keeping the dollar as supreme on the planet as for purchasing for everything. They're drifting away from that. Even the Straits of Hormuz, Iran was now saying, we want payment in Chinese yuan. And they're like, well, that's not a global standard. Yeah, right. It's not. But imagine the dent in and the gravitation toward and away from the dollar because it would be accepted. How do they say that? Chinese death by 1,000 cuts. Yep, that's the one. Over to Ethiopia, staying in Africa. All public institutions, state-owned enterprises, non-essential employees go on annual leave. Well, we saw something like this, C-19. They've already practiced, going to be pretty easy to do this in like a snap of a finger. And an interesting chart here for sailings of vessels. So this is an interesting fact here. Peak COVID lockdown led to 8 million barrels a day of oil demand destruction, the largest in history up to that point. Well, the current supply is twice as large. We're about 16 million barrels. So what's happening? The lockdowns during the vid are not going to be strong enough. They're going to have to go to something different this time. Easy to understand chart. White is oil tankers. Blue is fertilizer shipments, for example. Down to almost nothing on either of those. So what it's really talking about is everything we experienced, let's say 2020 to 2023, on how to save energy, how to do things more efficiently without having people travel all over the place. That is only going to be 50% effective during this event right now. And if, I'm just saying if Iran were to strike that east-west pipeline in Saudi Arabia, taking 7 million more barrels off. Now, if they get nasty, they'll do that. That would take us into, something so far beyond. I just don't know how the world would handle that. I've been trying to game it out, look at the different scenarios. So, for example, in Asia, cohesive societies, they're going to do what is required to continue through. They've done this through history. So that's going to be a no-brainer. It's just going to jump in. Okay. First thing they're going to just say is no private vehicles driving anymore. Everybody takes public transport. And people will be like, right, okay, we got a full, huge, gigantic, well-oiled transport machine, at least across, most of Asia. Not in America, almost zero. It's going to be difficult if they tell you to quit driving, like drive 1 to 2 days a week. Oh, people are going to be belly aching, screaming, jumping up and down. Here, over there, but all right, everybody going to do public transport. Things are going to be busy. You're going to have to adjust your times, but deal with it. And when this finishes, Asia is going to repair first because all the oil's coming back here first. America going to get stuck in a quicksand with great white sharks and the piranhas pulling it back down, right? So things will work here first. Now, if it goes to that point where then, at that point, the economy suffers so much that even public transport's not working. The next step will be actually starting cutting and requiring different industries to stop producing. Now, when that happens, then everything you buy in America, it just literally won't be there because it takes months to turn these facilities back on. There's already a semi-plastic shortage being talked about here. They're slowing production in almost all the plastic facilities that are being produced. At least, there's the ones in Malaysia, there's those in Thailand, the ones up in China. They're slowing down to a trickle, to the very minimum input to keep those factories going right now. That is their first line of defense. Like the amount of plastics being produced is slowing down. So any prepackaged things, that's going to be affected as well. They're going to try to run these plastics factories as long as they can at the minimal input. They have a certain minimum to go in there to even have enough pressures to extrude something or whatever. That's first. They get to the point where they cut them down. It's a full stoppage of plastic production. But at the same time, it takes 30 days or more to get those back up and running again. And again, after this thing is finished, there will be energy that would be distributed, but again, it'll just backfill channels that were empty first, and then it'll start to front fill to where production can start again. But that could be anywhere from 1 to 2 months. This whole thing, stepping back, taking a look at where these disruptions are, like plastics are a needed thing in our world. And as much as I hate it, I wish we could go back to the 1970s and just do glass like we did. When I was a kid, there was no plastics, barely at all. Everything was glass and cardboard. That's it. I wish we would revert back to that, but everybody being so conscious now of energy. In a moment of Zen here for Italy. Need to relax our minds as we jump into the next set of variables here. You can always escape in nature and just dust this off your brain for a few hours. Diesel price increase, and this is just in the first month. Now, as the longer this goes, the higher these go also. So Philippines is the most affected so far, 81% plus increase. And we got Nigeria, which, again, they're a major oil producer. That missing piece of their refineries. How did they put themselves in such a situation where they didn't build any refineries, yet they're just net exporters, buying back the stuff at a huge premium markup? Malaysia, again, this is a problem. They import a huge amount of diesel and gasoline from Russia and China, yet they export a huge amount of gasoline up to Taiwan. So there's already a break in that. Vietnam, Singapore, same thing. They're a huge importer. They just repackage the gas and then send it to Taiwan. It's going to get hit up here. But as we get down the line here, 41% increase in diesel prices in America. How is that even possible? We have some of the largest refineries and the largest oil production on the planet, yet our prices went up that much. I'd see a big capital scam written on top of this thing. And as we come all the way down, look at Russia, India, and Saudi Arabia. That's what it should look like. Producers and refiners, they should be at near zero increase, not 41% like the US. That's just travesty. Canada, you're just as bad. And the double-edged sword here, Cambodia, what they did is they reduced the import duties and taxes on petrol and diesel, thereby government absorbed that, but that'll go on for a while. But the hard part is to put the taxes back on after the emergency's over, because people will be like, whoa. Our gas dropped anywhere from 10 to 20% in price just on taxes. That's going to be a hard sell to just slap that back on again. They're going to get a lot of people protesting that alone. I think that's why governments don't want to really jump into this as a possible scenario, because it's going to be in their face on really how much they're being scammed on all the taxes for everything. Price increase since start of the war. War's inflationary. Heating oil 77%, European natural gas 71%, and you just go down. The urea's fertilizer, so that's 50%, 77% so far in the U.S. because we import a lot of that. And just base fertilizer, probably NPK versus just 4600, which is the urea. Just hard to there's different grades and levels of the fertilizer. Palm oil, see, that's an edible, so that's going to just drive up food costs for most people. Rice as well, 7% up. Those are foodstuffs. People they get hurt on that. So I was looking, and I found a sort of a flow chart, for a better term here. The fertilizer wall, number one on the top left, it shows you that fertilizer spikes, and we see it's more than that now, than 30%, which leads to feedstock or protein increases in price, and they hit a wall there too, because a lot of the crops grown feed cattle, and then we get a dairy and meat shortage, and then once that unravels a sliver, they call it a global feed chain fracture. That means all the feed for all the animals just gets disrupted, whether it's chickens or turkeys or cattle or whatever, lambs, sheep, goat, and then the packaged plastic and wall. We're hitting that here already. So just FYI, plastics are going to be a huge thing that are going to disrupt even more, because you can't package it. You're going to have to rethink an entire packaging system. That doesn't get done in a month. That gets done in like multiple years. And then the last mile logistics, meaning diesel gets super expensive, and then the move things from point A to point B, going to cost you more money. So everywhere you look along this chain, more money, more money, more money. If you remember In Living Color, funny show. I wish comedy was comedy again. That was just such a classic back in the day. Jim Carrey and all that up in there. This is everywhere, every step of anything you can purchase in the food supply chain, especially the plastics. It's just going to cost more. So again, how do you protect yourself against that? How do you get ready for it? Well, growing your own food is probably the first biggest, defense wall you can put up. Knowing your farmers, canning your own, drying your own. Okay, those are other little walls in front of the large wall. Unless you got your birds already up and running and you're hatching out and you got incubators to hatch, you're going to have to think of something quick with the proteins. And speaking of birds, what was all these crows in Israel? Look at all these crows coming in. And nobody can explain it. Like crows in China are a bad omen. Excuse me. If you get this many crows coming in your city, people are very, very, very frightened. Crows always signal something not good is coming your way. It's almost like they can sense it, Crows are pretty intense. Just like everything that's going out of control, it's hard to even know where to squeeze the news in. I appreciate you watching this one here. But, just the disruptions that are visible in front of us, it's going to get squirrely at best. So even as of today, it looks like even more things have gotten shattered. Like they went after the power plants in Iran, and Iran said, you do that, we're going to just start destroying the desalination plants and more refineries. And it's just going to keep going. But, that aside, the big thing, the one number thing that you need to look for is this east-west pipeline. If that gets taken out, then that takes 7 million barrels a day off the planet's supply in 1 second. It goes to zero as a destroyed pipeline would. That 7 million barrels off the pipeline would send most stock markets down 70% or more. There's just be no economic activity. Like if that gets hit, Great Depression is probably equivalent of what you would expect coming out of that. Not that many countries have their own refineries and energy production capability. We could run flat out in America and supply ourselves, but there would still be restrictions. Other countries, not a chance. Like look at Nigeria, they just produce, they don't have any way to, make fuels out of that. Or I don't know any cars that you can just pour oil into and it burns, bunker fuel. Yeah, you could probably get away with that and some dirty fuels over in some ships, but not land transport. Maybe retooling an engine to do that would be a thing. Who knows? But whoever could figure that out and get it up lightning fast, but still, you're talking months and months and months of R&D on that. Even in local, just like DIY people across the planet doing things, it would still take them a month or two to figure it out. Disruptions are here. This is the completion and the last step in the end goals for the end of the decade. Check the boxes. Like this is it. This takes us to the end of the decade. Everything that was forecast and foretold that it would be. A lot of people thought it was the vid. I thought it was too. It disrupted so much that it took us a giant step toward the end of the decade goals. But now this one in earnest is it. There's absolutely unequivocally no other thing that it could be. And it's going to drag all the way to the end of the decade here. You got 3 more years of this to 2029. And by that point, everything will be so incredibly different. It'll just be hard to match this world we're even living now, which is completely different than the one in 2018. To rematch it again, might as well be living on Mars by the end of 29. So just mentally get yourself ready for it. This is the massive change that most people were looking for that push us over the edge into this new world. Anyway, share this with friends and family. And if you're going to grow some of your own food, trueleafmarket.com, heirloom organic seeds for any grow zone on the planet. I love the seeds. That link's in the description box below. My Patriot Supply as well. They got the 4-week, the 1-week, and also the 3-day emergency food kit. Dip your toe in the water if you want to get something tested out. Arrange for everybody there. That link's also in the description box. Every purchase you make helps me bring you more information like this. And please join us on the Civilization Cycle podcast. Ransom and I going 2 hours at a time about these same issues. You can check us out on YouTube and Rumble, the Civilization Cycle podcast. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.